Welcome to Renew Recovery here at Sweetwater, Tennessee at the Fellowship Hall of First Baptist Church, Sweetwater. I want to welcome everyone who's online, giving us your time. Welcome everyone here. We meet every Monday at 6 for a great dinner, and we give the ladies and gentlemen a round of applause. It's such a blessing, and give a shout out to Donna's Cafe. They really help us out big time. We want to thank them. Lesson, or we'll do a testimony, and tonight I got a great friend. He's going to come up and share with us after the song, and at this time I'd like to welcome up Miss Janet.
Can you check the microphone real quick?
It is.
Maybe. Okay.
But at this time, we'll welcome up Miss Janet, and she knows more about the microphones than I
do. All right, let's sing.
Oh yeah, great sing.
Bless us again, sweetheart.
Oh, that's a good song.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you again, Miss Janet. You're back. God is totally in the story. Totally. And I know this story we're about to hear is true that. Him and I was talking earlier, and the resurrection, to speak for my life, had to be God in my story. And I know that's what's going to be felt tonight when my brother Mike comes up and shares. And at this time, I'd like to welcome Mike up to come up and share his experience, truth, and hope.
Well, I haven't spoken in front of a crowd in quite some time, and following that beautiful I'm years coming on 21 years. January the 8th, 2005. I was 40 years old. I was born in Greenville, Tennessee, and my father was a factory worker, and he got us moved quite a bit. So by the time I was 5 or 6 years old, we'd already moved 3 or 4 times. So that started a path of what I call the gypsy in Michael. You know, I learned at an early age that moving about and establishing new friends and making new friends with many different people was normal behavior, normal. You know, some people live in one spot their whole lives, and I didn't get that opportunity. When my parents divorced when I was 7 years old, again, we moved again. So, you know, my parents divorced at a young age, when I was a young age, so then I became man of the house, ruler of the empire of Michael. And so I started acting like a monster at a little age. And, you know, we were a religious family, you know, we were all baptized, we went to a Lutheran church. We were all American hypocrites, because, you know, we would go to church and we would behave. We'd act well, we got pinched on the leg if we didn't. But yet when we come home, everything that we did in church was opposite. We hollered, we screamed, they drank. I was very young at the time, and it was just a ruckus. So I learned at a very early age that, you know, one behavior in church was one way, and then we could behave differently at home, and that was just the way life was. And after learning that behavior, you know, I've come to the understanding that was poor learning. So at about 12 years old, 10 years old, I'd already had a taste of some wine that we were siphoning off. The old Germans had to have their wine in the basement. And so we were siphoning wine, and I had that warm fuzzy. I never forgot that warm fuzzy, and I chased that warm fuzzy for another 30 years. Yes, sir. And, you know, I wasn't a very good drunk. I was a criminal of sorts, and I seemed to get in a lot of trouble. So I had a lot of affiliation with the police department. I just was not a good criminal. And so I had spent many a days in state furnished resorts. And it got to be a point where it was just common, you know, the common consequences. That was just normal consequences of doing business. So when I get in trouble for drinking and driving, and I got in trouble, it's just normal business. You know, at that point, I had pulled so far away from God, and it wasn't that I disregarded God, I just didn't see the value, or I wasn't taught the value. I was taught the Bible verses, I was taught the books in the order they go by memory. You know, I went to the parochial school, but I didn't have the application because that wasn't in my home life. As I aged, my mom got remarried about 12 years old to a very great man, and very spiritual, very God-fearing man, and he was an awesome stepfather, but I in turn to be a horrible stepchild. I was all of a sudden trying to be controlled by a good entity, and here I am used to doing whatever Michael wanted to do. So by the time I was 14, I was living on my own, from family members to people's couches. all over the place. So, I didn't get to finish school the traditional way. I don't have that camaraderie of a high school graduation party or a high school graduation walk across the stage, all those things that I didn't get to participate, that I look back on and would have held that of value today. But I didn't realize what I was giving up. And then as sobriety come about, I'd already been through 2 wives. I have 2 children. One is just like me. Please pray for him. And my daughter is much like her mother. She's a very good girl. She was raised in a good environment. She doesn't have the same problems that I do, or my son does. I don't know if it's hereditary or not. I believe it's a learned behavior. But I know he's really suffering at the moment, and God, I know, is looking out for him. I just hope he gets a hold of him.
Amen.
He got a hold of me.
Yes, sir. That's right.
But that being said, my kid was old before I figured out I even had one. So when about 3 months sober, I had gotten that DNA request. And then along with the DNA request comes a very large back child. But we had some interesting characters in our room. And when I first got sober, I don't know why I didn't want to label it, but it was easier for me to just say a higher power, and that's what I did. But all along, growing up in a Lutheran school, I knew who God was. I knew who Jesus was. I just didn't go to them. I didn't rely on them as I do today. So, using that higher power worked. We went to church a little bit. People die, people get married, you got to go to church. But I didn't attend on a regular basis, and I wasn't against it. I searched out. I didn't really search out, but I was going to different religions, just kind of feeling it out and seeing what applied to me, what didn't apply to me. But I continued to feel comfortable in the program of recovery that I got sober with, which is Alcoholics Anonymous. But staying in that program, never leaving that program, and then feeding church back into it. And that got started in the last 7 years, 8 years. I started going to a church in Miami before we moved. And then now, since we moved here, I've been going to a church and haven't missed a Sunday since I have been coming here. But when God started getting back into my life, I started hearing the old Bible studies that I learned as a kid. But today I'm learning how to apply them and keep God in my life. And all of us know that prayer, footprints in the sand. And I hold that a lot deeper today. But now I go back in a bit and I look at where God's guidance was in my life, who he had put in my life, what he's getting me ready for. I didn't realize what I would be doing with my sobriety. I was such a drunk that no one could count on me. They don't give you keys to your house and say, come over here if something goes wrong while I'm on vacation. That's not the kind of relationship we had. And as time goes on and the longer I stood sober and stayed married, I've been blessed to be married to the same woman now for 25 years. And she put up with a few years of me drunk. Oh, it's a God thing. And I hope the last 20 has been better than the first 5. But she had a lot to do with why I got sober. And it wasn't the finger pointing. She inspired me to be a better person. Because in her, I could see people were better than I was. And kinder, caring, concerned. These are all things that I did not experience when I was drunk or using. These are not things that I experienced while out in the real world without God in my back pocket. I carry God in my shirt pocket, on my shoulder, everywhere I go today. Because the abilities that he gives me, I'm a craftsman, engineer of sorts. I like to fix things. And it's amazing how he gives me these talents and skills, but yet I don't have the talents and skills of spelling. The grammar's poor, but I paid attention in other classes, and I think that's what was real value. But today I realize these little nuances, that they're not just so be, that these are all gifts of God, what abilities he gives us. Today I also thank God a great deal for what he doesn't give us. We were talking earlier about being cured from this crazy disease, and I honestly believe that my obsession and compulsion has been cured. I don't believe I'm still possible of the same behavior if I get away from what I'm doing today and being with Christ and being a Christian and not being afraid to talk about it.
That's right.
And keeping these people in my life. I run in a completely different group today. The guy I was 20 years ago, I would not want to hang out with. And I don't know why people did, because I was egotistical, maniac, big shotism, braggism. I mean, you name all the isms, and I probably was that. You know, construction business was hard, and that's what I did. And I was a hard-driven boss man. And it's my way or the highway. That's how I ran my life, and I crashed and burned many a time. But the joy of being sober is continuous. You know, I giggled at a dinner table the other night when we were talking about driver's license, and I said, boy, I can remember the first time my driver's license, my insurance card, and my registration all had the same address and the same name. And the whole dinner table looked at me strange, you know, because these people have never had to experience borrowed tags, right? Lost registration, and no, I left it at home, you know? Those are the stories we tell the officer. So I've been blessed today to be able to do that and actually have a driver's license. I was a habitual drunk driver, and I've seen some horrible things because of that drunk driving, and I'm just so grateful I wasn't involved in any more stupid things than what I did. But God has really interjected in my life in the last couple of years. Being a part of this Tennessee community, it's much closer knit. Again, I'm not embarrassed to talk about religion in this crowd. And it wasn't that I was embarrassed in Miami, it just wasn't a common subject. No one could return the conversation. It was such a one-way that it almost become unacceptable. So now here, and I had no idea the religious situation and the churches were going to be so plentiful as in Tennessee, because there's plenty of churches around. You can never fall short of, you don't know where to go. But having such a religious community like this, it's so much safer. We were talking a minute ago that, you know, you go to the gas station, you don't think you're going to get robbed. And you're not looking around every corner when you walk down the street. So it's a joy to be a part of this community. I have no idea what origin of religion this church is, but when Gabe asked me to speak, and he tells me it's religious based, and I'm a Christian, I hope you're a Christian, I know that this is in good orderly direction. I need to share my story to keep my sobriety. And I know that this is part of it. Sometimes I share a little bit more drastically, more than not. I don't want to scare you. All the war stories aren't all that important, but I can tell you I had plenty. I think my joy stories are much, much better. Since this sobriety, I've been able to help my mother through a health crisis, through an abusive relationship with a daughter, a family member, and get her in nursing homes. Been actually able to comfort and take care of my mother. My wife is smarter than I am, so she does the paperwork, and I take care of the physical stuff. But we are actually in charge of mother now with the Alzheimer's and dementia. She can't represent herself any longer. And I was tasked with burying my father and my brother. And I've been able to get through these things sober. And that's not what is so amazing. What's so amazing is that the good Lord got me sober before they died so I could help them. Got me sober so they could look at me and trust me and sign over their stuff before they died so I could take care of them. That's what's amazing.
Yes.
And God had that in the works 18 years earlier. So when I see all this stuff, it's just so obvious. Good orderly direction is good for me. I'm glad I'm a Christian. I'm glad I'm here speaking about my recovery. I don't know that anyone wishes to have a disease, but if I have a disease, I'm glad this is the way I have to treat it. There's other diseases out there that are very horrible. This one's pretty horrible too, but this is a pretty nice way to treat it.
That's right.
We come here, enjoy each other's fellowship, we share, shed a few tears, we have a little bit of laughter. It's all important. I wish my wife would have came. She's new to the area and very shy. So I see that this is being recorded. I hope we can replay this at some point for her. It's a nice crowd here, quiet crowd. Got to see one little baby for a moment, so that was nice. Well, youth is our only hope, you know. We got a few days left, so I'm gonna make mine count and share as much as I can. But that's about it, Gabe. I'm a older, much quieter, easier to get along with guy today because of God and my sobriety. And I know that I wouldn't have my sobriety with God without God.
That's right.
And now that I've got back in line with both of them, I can't wait for the next 20 years in comparison to how the last 20 have gone. So thank you very much for letting me speak.
Yes, sir.
I hope you guys got something out of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you so much.
Didn't mean to break your stand.
It's been broken. I broke it my back.
We'll send you a bill.
Yeah, that was spot on with the song tonight.
Amen.
God is in the story, and that was. I want to give another round of applause. It was, and we just want to thank everyone for coming. Thank Miss Janet, her beautiful voice again.
I don't.
And we come as we are here. We are Renew Recovery. Come as you are. Bring your brokenness to us. Through God alone, we'll be there and comfort you. And like and share our page. Get on there and tune on to YouTube. We are trying to get more followers on YouTube. Everyone out there, pass the link around, and everyone here, same thing, please. And come back. As Roger says, we love you, but God loves you so much more. Thank God.